The year is 2025. We've experienced a lot of YouTuber apologies so far. Miranda Sings, also known as Colleen Ballinger. Logan Paul.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
But where does Mutahar's apology stack up to the rest? For those unaware with this situation, the situation is crazy, as they say. Nintendo released a new console. The first real showcase was warmly received, except for when the price was revealed. Yeah, $80 for a Mario Kart, but you can play as a cow. I wonder. Obviously, with this never-ending drama between the Switch 2 release and the release date of the console itself, there was much revenue to be gained by rage bait. Mutahar himself titled the video, "Why I'm Not Buying the Nintendo Switch 2 Right Now." Which, that's completely fair. If you don't care about playing the newest Mario Kart after the previous one has been out for 11 years, yeah, that's understandable. But you know what he did to completely undercut his entire point that he made? Yeah, he bought it. Midnight release too. It's not like he just ran into it in the store. No, he was there. Day one, frame one, he got the Switch. He consumed the product. Is anybody really surprised that a tech YouTuber is going to buy a piece of tech? It's really not all that big of a deal, except for the fact that he literally said he wouldn't be getting it. Mutahar rode on that Nintendo hate bandwagon, but at the end of the day, he was writing checks he couldn't cash. He both tweeted and posted a video about the Switch 2, and of course, people were clowning on him. Also, remember when Mutahar said that he was gonna delete Twitter forever? Yeah, well, he's back on Twitter now, of course. It's almost like he has a history of going back on his word. So now, Mutahar is getting hate from both sides of the equation. The Nintendo toddlers and the people who really think that they're making a difference by not purchasing a game console they weren't interested in anyways. They have come together and clowning on Mutahar. And since Mutahar cannot let anything go, remember, he initially left Twitter because people were making a lot of AI Indian memes. He posted an apology video for buying a console. It's literally just called sorry. How manipulative is this? Please tell me that he at least saw the humor in titling it just sorry, right? He had to. This is a little melodramatic about buying a video game console, right? So let's dissect this apology video and see just how funny this whole situation is. The situation is crazy, as they say.
Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and let's just talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. I made a mistake. I ended up buying that Nintendo Switch 2, even though I said that I was going to hold off. I wasn't just going to go buy it outright. And there I was, going on a midnight release, and I ended up picking it, just on a walk-in. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, there's no way to sugarcoat or cut around this.
It's not even like he just ran into it in the wild. He had to. Midnight release. He was just that curious.
I did, in fact, commit a hypocrisy. I made a mistake. I should have not bought this product. Now,
Or maybe just title your video anything else other than "Why I'm Not Buying a Switch 2 Right Now." You dug yourself into this hole.
A few videos on the Switch 2, well, not a few, several. And I've basically covered it. I've not been the most positive viewer of it, especially around certain things like those game key cards, and especially about their TOS, when apparently it seems like they can just brick your systems, and more specifically around the fact that maybe the system is in fact a brick when you ended up picking it up. Now, as you all know, yesterday I made a pretty big mistake. I actually made a video with the Switch 2 inside the actual frame. I actually had one on screen. I bought one. I used it to play Cyberpunk 2077.
Bro, that's a huge mistake. Did he do it again? Is that the Switch 2 right there? Like next to his Xbox controller? I'm assuming that's a headset. Is that the Switch 2 right there? I know the new Switch is more like black, has a black Joy-Cons. I think that might be it.
And on it. Now, the reason why this is a pretty big
dog, look at his dad's dog. Now that I'm looking at it, it's like, what's the organization here? You don't even dock the Switch. Where's the dock, bro?
Mistake, and I do absolutely believe I should actually apologize to my audience, is I didn't practice what I preached. I said you should vote with your wallet, and what did I do? I straight up charged my card and got the Switch 2. And for that, it's actually a pretty big apology. Like, there's no way to really say anything.
See, this is the real way to address the situation. Hey, I made content on it. I made my money back. It was a business expense, right? Plain rock. He straight up just destroyed the Switch 2. like in front of a crowd of people lining up at the Nintendo San Francisco store. I'm pretty sure at the time of seeing that video, it had like 500K views on YouTube alone. He definitely got his money back from straight up destroying a Switch 2.
There's no really any way to sugarcoat it. It's an actual mistake. You know, you can sit and blame other people, but ultimately, you know,
I think
Nintendo. I think the community kind of made it known that I would be one of those gamers that would fall into FOMO. And even though that I don't
FOMO.
personally think that I'm the reason that video games have just gotten more expensive, ultimately, the actions that I did do contribute to the fact that video games would have gotten more expensive, or at least the aspect of it would become more normalized. And ultimately, there's really no other way to, you know, just apologize and say that I'll do better moving forward, you know? And to be fair, the biggest sigh of relief for me is to sit over here and apologize for purchasing a video game system, right? There's a lot of things that a YouTuber can do that would be very illegal, very wrong, ethically, not even just legally, that I could sit down here and apologize for. And that is the only thing that I've really thanked God today for not doing. You know, I could apologize for far more worse, but, you know, realistically, it's just apologizing for purchasing the system that, you know, I kind of made a big hullabaloo about, right? Now, obviously, gaming boycotts are something that unfortunately traditionally do not work just because people end up buying them. And in this case, I was one of those people. Now, I do want to kind of defend myself a little bit and just kind of talk about this, you know, because I don't want to just say that, you know, I don't want to just say sorry. I do want to give an explanation. Obviously, that night I was coming home, bought a Switch. And one of the reasons I wanted to buy the Switch is to kind of look at that brick capability. I wanted to see if you can fire the system up, you can make a local account, you can connect without, you know, utilizing any patches.
Yes, he needs to find out. He just needed to find out day one if you can create a local account on Switch. That's more pathetic actually than buying $80 Mario Kart. Right? I needed to find out the night of its release if I could actually play the game offline.
And thankfully you actually can, you know, as long as you have a Switch 2 and of course a game, which this is something that I'm actually keeping stock, or not just actually, I had a Cyberpunk 2077. As long as you have a game with an actual, you know, completed update on the cartridge, this system is completely usable offline, which was pretty important to me because I didn't want to see another system release as a pure on brick. So as long as you have a system with, again, a video game, it seems things can just work out of the box. Now, as far as Switch 1 stuff goes, that still needed you to patch for getting the backwards compatibility going in. But if you were just buying Switch 2 games, then surprisingly, everything just worked out of the box. The other thing I wanted to see was, again, the functionality of these games too, especially one game completed on the system. And for that, I played Cyberpunk 2077. In fact, that was a pretty massive section of the video where I just showed the game actually running for anybody to come into the video, watch, and see.
See, it's not that big of a deal. You are just making an educational video. You're benchmarking a game on a system, right? Plenty of YouTubers do that. It didn't need to be you, but you're interested in Cyberpunk. So obviously, you want to see how it ran on the new device. I really do not have an issue with him, you know, making content on the new shiny gadget that comes out. The reason people are clowning on him is that he rhetorically blocked himself off from doing that by saying, I'm not getting a Switch 2 right now, and then proceed to do so anyways.
Now, I could make the video overly negative, or I could make it overly positive, but the reason I just kind of went the way that I did was I wanted to just objectively look at this product as what it was and talk about things, right? And, you know, one of the things that I kind of read was like, the grifter stuff. You were just grifting on that hate. Well, if I was grifting on the hate and I released that, you know, video, I would probably be overly negative, or I would try to spread some level of misinformation to garner more viewership on hating the device or loving the device. But in reality, I just wanted to cover things from an objective perspective. I wanted to show that there were some games, Cyberpunk 2077, which worked out of the box day one. Now there is like one other game, or, you know, I think actually 3 other games, all from Nintendo, that all come pretty much on the cartridge, being Mario Kart World.
He couldn't even stay in focus. He just keeps going. The camera is out of focus, bro.
Legend of Zelda, both Legend of Zeldas, and they all just come pretty much without that
Dude, he knows that the light, he's just trying to find the computer monitor light. He doesn't even have a ring light. The only light going into this room is from that window, which is behind him, and then the light coming from the computer monitor. How do you record like this at like over 3 million subscribers?
Game key card stuff. So one of the things that I didn't do in that video was obviously buy the game.
Is this supposed to be the aesthetic you're going with? The literal like mother's basement aesthetic?
Key card stuff. Like I didn't go out into the store and purchase those gimped copies that I was speaking so much against, which again, I only really bought the system and the one game that was of any interest to me, just so I can show it in the video. And ultimately, regardless of what I'm saying over here, all of that is still a mistake. I was hypocritical. I bought a device that, you know, I actually shouldn't have. I contributed to, unfortunately, a bad practice in the gaming industry, right? Which was supporting this Nintendo system. I did want to cover it from a review perspective. I did want to cover it just from the preservationist perspective to see if a lot of those alarm bells that were ringing literally days before the system was actually launching were actually valid alarm bells. But ultimately, look, at the end of the day, there's nothing I can say to, you know, not accept actual fault at purchasing the system when I made a big hullabaloo about it. And ultimately for that, I do completely apologize. There's no joke, no fun you can make in this manner.
No joke, no fun. Buddy, you bought a video game console. It's not that serious.
I feel like ultimately I do have to apologize for that, and that's what I do. Now, if you're somebody that, you know, is, you know, looking at me and, you know, you don't want to watch my videos anymore because you don't like me anymore because of the Switch 2 stuff, then, you know, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to wave by. We're going to have to wave by at each other. All I can really do is say I'm sorry. That's really all I can do. You know, I can't just whip myself or do something to self-flagellate myself just for the camera at this point. All I can really do is say I'm sorry, and I'll do better next time. And ultimately, you know, for me as somebody that's made tons of videos on countering misinformation regarding game preservation, when people talk about, like, you know, how every disc nowadays is a digital download and there really isn't any way to preserve video games anymore. And I have made videos where I've talked about this, I've corrected the misinformation. You know, for me, the Switch 2 was kind of like that, right? I wanted to see if in this situation, game preservation, at least for fully completed titles, was actually there. And obviously, I did make a point in that video, if you watch it, where I said, you know, when this device has 256 gigs on it, you know, buying game key cards, you know, already completely incomplete copies, you're going to be basically downloading and filling your entire new system up with just like, what, 4 or 5 games effectively down the road. And that's going to become a pretty huge problem, not just for game preservation, but for the average person that, you know, probably isn't also going to spend 80, 90 bucks, 70 bucks, whatever, to buy external media for the system.
So now Mutahar is just going on about the game key cards, which is essentially just a roundabout method of those like codes and boxes to like scratch off and add to your gaming account. I mean, really though, the game key cards in of themselves are not, I guess they're superior to codes and boxes. I'm not really interested in them. The real issue with that is that there's no Switch cartridges, Switch 2 cartridges, I gotta say now. There's only 64 gigabyte Switch 2 cartridges, which is completely insane. I don't know what Nintendo was thinking doing that. I don't know if there's some weird conflict going on in Taiwan right now. I'm sure there always is. But having the option for developers to have 8 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, that would go a long way because it would be cheaper on the developer's end and it would maybe encourage them to actually have the games on a card instead of just putting on a game key card. Because right now it's either you go all 64 gigabytes or you're just digital only, basically. I mean, really the only upside to the game key cards is that they're not tied to your account. So you can essentially sell a digital video game after you're done with it. Kind of nice. But there's no reason that Raito, a remaster of a PS2 game, is physical on Switch, but digital only on Switch 2. Same thing with Sonic X Shadow Generation.
These are all things that I did talk about in the video, and these were kind of the most important things for me too. The other thing was obviously seeing how a game like Cyberpunk 2077 could run on a newer ARM-based chip device. Now, ultimately, as part of my apology, all I can really say is, look, at the end, I am sorry. I probably shouldn't have contributed to Nintendo's dog shit in video gaming, but ultimately I did. And, I'm one of the bad people in this process. Now, do I think that I'm the most evil person in the world? No, I don't think that. And I don't.
Again, talking about a video game company, which if you met, did you just hear him say that it was like evil just to buy Nintendo systems?
Video gaming, but ultimately I did. And
okay, well, he's spazzing out right there.
the other thing was obviously seeing how a game like Cyberpunk 2077 could run on a newer ARM-based chip device. Now, ultimately, as part of my apology, all I can really say is, look, at the end, I am sorry. I probably shouldn't have contributed to Nintendo's dog shit in video gaming, but ultimately I did. And, I'm one of the bad people in this process.
The consumers are bad people for buying a console. He now has to grovel beneath his audience. He's made so many videos dunking on the Switch 2 that now people are calling him bad for buying a video game system. Dog. It's a fucking video game console.
Now, do I think that I'm the most evil person in the world? No, I don't think that. And I don't even see really anybody saying that. But as far as being hypocritical and bad for gaming, I can definitely see how I've contributed to that, and for that I just really humbly apologize. There's no if, and, or but around it. It is just a straight apology to anybody that felt slighted, hurt, or disappointed in this entire process. For that, my community is pretty important to me, and ultimately I really did feel like, because I had a platform and I could talk a little bit about the game preservation angle, maybe it was worth showing. To me, if there was something really scathing about it in this device, it would have been a completely warranted purchase, because then I could at least alert some people that, yeah, this thing is actually a confirmed brick. Yes, actually all these games, even the ones that ship completely on cart, don't just work day one. These would be pretty huge points.
Why did you need to buy the console yourself to figure that out? Surely that information would have come out and you could have just made some video reading an article, right? There is no necessary process for you to buy the system yourself.
But when I actually got the device and I tested it myself, I couldn't find that to be the case. So it was really just to be honestly reporting on something versus, maybe raising more misinformation and hurting myself down the road a lot harder than, the hurt that I've taken right now. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. I can just look into the camera and just say, I'm sorry.
See, that's a good point. He'd rather have the upfront cost of buying something he said he didn't previously buy and be correct about his statements going forward than to just be completely ignorant and risk being completely wrong about it. I completely understand the points he's making here, but it's always sandwiched between these groveling apologies from literal internet people that are mad that a tech YouTuber bought a tech product.
Do better. And that's pretty much all it comes down to. And the only thing I'm really thankful about here is I could be apologizing for, as a YouTuber, there's apology videos that I've watched through my career where people have done really terrible things. And ultimately, this might be one of the worst things that I've done, which genuinely is support bad game practices and, not practice what I preach. I can't make videos where I say I'm not going to be buying a Nintendo Switch, day one at least. And then here I am buying it day one, even if personally I felt making the content, and at least if I could find something scathing about it, I could talk about, sure.
What about buying the console itself is supporting bad game practice? It's not like you bought the $80 Mario Kart, unless you got the bundle. Did you get the bundle there, Mutahar, huh? All he ever says in this video is that he bought the console itself and Cyberpunk, which is a port of a game that, obviously the game itself, when it came out, extremely atrocious. Now it's good, and the good version is on the cartridge, all of it. So it's not like you supported the game key cards. It's not like you're buying into their subscription. It's not like you got $30 amiibo to come with it. It's not. What really is the issue here?
But for me, I'm still not somebody that is in line to be, known as a hypocrite in this regard. And for that, I do apologize. I've done something wrong, which is purchasing the device after the hullabaloo that I've raised. And for that, all I can do is honestly just apologize. Really, that's all I can do. So if you accept this apology, great. If you don't accept this apology, then it is what it is. But yeah.
I completely understand you actually buying the system since you are a YouTuber. You will profit off of buying the Switch 2 and its games. Just because you've talked negatively about something doesn't mean you can never purchase. The issue is you said you straight up will not buy it. Then you got it frame one, the midnight release. You didn't even just walk past it by a store. You went out of your way to buy the Switch 2 within the hour of its release.
You know, our word is really all we have. That's really what it comes down to. What I will not apologize for is purchasing and keeping Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch.
Oh my goodness, he has a spine.
I really feel like even if you're not buying the Nintendo Switch 2 and you've got the money, you should probably signal to the industry that buying a completed Switch game, or buying a complete product on launch with all the DLC onto it is something that should be supported, right?
So now he's sort of saying, hey, you should buy a game for a console you might not even have, just to support the practice, which Cyberpunk on Switch 2 is $70. Not everybody has that sort of money to pay $70 for a game they can't even play because it's a very new system that's $450 out the box. People don't spend money like this. They spend money on the Switch 2 because they want the Big Bang Wahoo Mario Kart. They want to play the game, not just like virtue signal about, oh, I'm sending the message about the video game industry. I care so much that this game is complete on cartridge. 5 years ago, it absolutely was not complete. But now Cyberpunk's the good example.
Especially considering that a lot of games release with tons of great expansion packs that never end up showing up on actual release anymore. Like they don't get re-released down the road. It used to be back in the day that when a game launched a year later, after it got like 3-4 single player expansions, you ended up getting like a Game of the Year edition. Now you still get the Game of the Year edition, but sometimes, in most cases, you end up getting like a little piece of paper inside with a code that doesn't even have the whole game. So yeah, for that, I will never actually truly apologize for this, nor will I ever apologize for picking up games like Stalker, which are these completed Japanese re-releases of 3 games on 1 cartridge. But anyways, I'm kind of talking in circles, really. Apologize for the Switch 2 stuff. Didn't practice what I preached there, and all I can say is I'm sorry, and I'm out.
He literally said he'll do better, bro. Is this what it's like to be completely buck broken by your audience? So chat, what have we learned today? The correct answer is that YouTubers are spiritually unemployed, and if you watch any video game advocacy channel, you're literally just hearing the opinions of a spiritually unemployed person talking about how things are too expensive. So just to make sure that Mutahar does not make a difference, I will buy 80 Switch 2s and give them away. No, I'm not. Before anybody in the comments tries to hit me with a class action lawsuit before I end up on CoffeeZilla. This YouTuber promised his audience to give away 80 Switch 2s. Nah, bro, I'm not doing that. But if you share this content and get me to 20,000 subscribers, I may consider it. I do have to make it up to all of you for being gone for so long. But definitely do tell me what you think about this whole situation. As they say, the whole situation is crazy. And maybe what do you think about the Switch 2 in general? Is Mario Kart your cup of tea? By the time I upload this, the new Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct should be out. So definitely tell me your thoughts on that.